Welcome back. In this section, you will learn data structure in Python. Remember, in the previous section, you learned different data types such as integer, float, string, and boolean. In this section, you will learn different data structure in Python, which include list, tuple, set, and dictionary. What is a data structure? A data structure is a collection of different data elements that are structured in a manner, and this is the core of Python programming language. Let's see how we can make use of this data structure in the lab session. To follow along this data structure, you will need to open a script called list. So in your Python script and codes, you look for list Jupyter Lab notebook, which is this, and then you will have this. And you can also create a new lab and then follow along with me. So I will first of all click on this to hide that so that you can see the screen in a broadly way. So what is a list? A list is just a sequence of objects that can hold a variety of data types in order. So to create a list, you will use a square bracket, and each element in that list will now be separated by a comma. Let's see how we can create a list. Also, the element in a list can be of any data types such as float, integer, string, boolean, or their combination. For example, I have this empty list. So to create an empty list, you just use this square bracket without any element inside it. And when I run this, I have this as my result, as you can see. And then if I create a new cell and type a list, for example, if you run it now, you will know that there is nothing in this list, because sometimes you may want to create an empty list, and that is how to do it. We also have another list called my list, where we have an integer 1, 2, 3. So now, if I run it now, you'll be able to see what is inside this list. So let me create another list. So you can call it, for example, let's say it's a list of string data types. For example, let's call it fruit, for example, and then I create a square bracket to have my element inside. So in this case, I want to put my favorite fruits inside this list. So I can just say mango. Remember, this is a string data, and that is why I have it in quotation. Let's say mango. I also like apple. I like carrot, and I also like uh, what other fruits? I like orange, for example, orange. So if you run this now, and then to see what is inside this variable fruit, you just call it fruit, and now you have all the fruits inside this list. And to check the kind of data type that this one is, you can just say type and put the variable there. So now, as you can see, it's of type list. So which means that the data type of variable fruit is list. It's a list. So therefore, the data type of variable fruit is of type list. Okay. Also, we can also create a list by assigning a value to variable. For example, I have this variable A, I have this variable B, I have this variable C, and then I create a list out of it. Instead of having 100, 200, 300, I just put A, comma B, comma C, since A is 100. So let's see. Now, this all the values here are being stored in my list. So to see what is in that my list, I just write it my list, and then my list 3, for example. Then, as you can see, this is my list now. So my list has just 3 elements. As you know, so a list can contain different data types. So for example, to create a list of integer, so you just have it in this way. For example, I have ages. So this is my list, and to see what is there, I just run it, and to see what is the type of uh, data in this variable ages, as you see, is of type list. Also for a float data type, so as you can see, all these elements are floats. So now I run it, then look for the time, what is it, and then as you can see, it's of type list. So I have different examples. That is why you have all these things here, so that you can easily see different ways at which you can create a list. So for the type string, in which we have done before when we did for float, I have all these as countries like Sudan, South Sudan, Kenya, Ethiopia, Somalia, and Uganda, and I made a list out of them. And then if I look at my countries now and see what I put inside this list, I can see all the elements, and I know that it's of type list. As I said, a list can also contain different data types, okay, all together. So here now I call it mixed list. It's a mixed list. This is an integer, here is a float, here is a string, here is an integer float, this is boolean, as you know. So everything can be put inside the list depending on what you are doing. Now I run this, as you can see, and now when I look for the type of data that is here, Python is telling me it's of type list. Also, you may also have what is called nested list. Okay, this is a list that can also hold other lists. So for example, I have this new list, a variable, and as you can see, all these are the elements in a list. And I also have a list inside this list. As you can see, this is one list, and here is another list. So which means that I have two lists here. Okay, and when I run this guy, run it, as you can see, all this like all together is for one list, and then inside that I also have another list, which is what you call a nested list. I have another example where I have all the countries in East Africa and North Africa. For example, in the East Africa countries, we have in the East Africa region, we have Ethiopia, Kenya, Rwanda, Somalia, South Sudan, Uganda, and Burundi. And also for the North Africa countries, we have Algeria, Egypt, Libya, Morocco, Sudan, and Tunisia. So if I run this, and I run this, as you can see, this is also a nested list. Sometimes you can also create a list by using this range function. What range does is to generate a list of sequence of numbers. Okay, for example, if I say range 12, okay, so this range 12 will generate a number from 0 to 11 for me. Okay, and this range has this function. As you can see, it has this argument like start, stop, and step size. So for example, see all these are the argument of this range function. So where you want to start, where you want to stop, and the step size. Okay, let's see it in example. Let's say I have this range 10. As you can see, this is range 10. So this one, you can see we have it's telling that you have number from 0 to 10. Okay, and if I have range 2 and 10, it's telling me I have this. But I really want to display the result. And this one here, as you can see, this is the where you want to start, where you want to end, and here is the step size. So if I run this now, I still have the same thing back. But to really get the output of the range, we have to include a list to it. So now, for example, if I say list range 10, see what happens if I run it. So I'm having 0 to 9, that is 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. So it display all the numbers for range 10 in this place. And as you know, when you look at the data type of this one, you see that it is a list. Reason is that because of this square bracket. And also to get the result of range 2 to 10, to get the result of range 2 and 10, sorry, to get the result of range 2 and 8, we have to include list to it. So the result of range 2 and 8 is this. So it's starting from 2, 3 and end at 7, which means that the end point here will not be included. And the same thing with this. Look at this one here. So here is the starting point, this is the end point, and here is the step size. So if I run this, so I get this 258. What is the meaning of that? It means that it's starting at 2, and for every number it will be adding 3 to it. For example, 2, 5, 8, 11, 14, 17. And if it add 3 again to 17, you see that we will have 21, and that is not where we want to get to. We only want to get to 20, but now if I add 3 to 17, I will have 21. That is why this thing ends at 17. I hope you understand what range function is doing now. Let me give you another example. Let's say I have list and then I have range. Then let's say I have 1 to 50 with a step size of 5. See what happens. Python is starting from 1 and it's going to end at 50, and for every number here, so it's adding 5 to it. So this is 1 plus 5, 6, 6 plus 5, 11, and so on. And when it gets to 46, if it add 5 to, because we are going to 50 here, so if Python add 5 to 46, you know that we have 51. Since 51 is not our end point, that is why it has to stop here, because if you add 5 to this 46, it will be 51. So that is how range and list works. So we are adding list function to this so that we can get the output. Otherwise, if we remove list from this range, as you can see, we only get what we have before, and that is not exactly what we are looking for. So to get the final output, you just add function list to it, and this is what you will get. And also, we have a function called len. You've been using len when we did a string. So what len function will do is to give you the number of elements in that list. So for example, I have this list called mixed, and I have all this 90, 2.5, Ezekiel, 123, 0.75, and so on. Let's say I want to get the number of elements in this mixed list. All right. So if you just put this function len and put your variable inside it, then it will return the number of elements in that list. I also have another one here where I call East Africa. Okay, and I want to get all the elements inside this list. So if you run it now, you have this. But in the case of a mixed list, a list of lists, that is nested list, you can see that this is a list: Ethiopia, Kenya, Rwanda, Somalia, South Sudan, Uganda, and Burundi. This is one list, okay? And inside this overall list, this one here, we also have another list inside this, okay? And so therefore, if we want to get the number of uh, elements in this list, Python will return 2. In this case, Python is not counting all these countries. So what Python is counting is the number of lists that are involved. As you can see, here is one list, okay, and here is another list. So now Python is now telling you that so the number of lists inside this is 2 with the help of len function. Okay, here's another one called new list. So in this case, we have remember this is also a nested list. Okay, we have one list here. Okay, after that, we also have another list here. Okay, so now if I want to get the number of list or number of elements inside this list, since this one is holding just one list, although the number of elements inside this is 3, and since here are individual elements, so what Python will see is that it will take this one as 1 and then add it to the number of elements here, which is 3, and 3 plus 1 is 4. So that's why this one is returning 4. But in this case, what Python is saying here is that it sees all this one as 1 because this is one list, and this one too as another list, and this list plus this list making 2 lists. That is why this one is returning 2. Welcome back. So in this section, you will learn how to index and slice a list. You are familiar with how to index and slice a string. The same principle also applies to a list. So for example, let's see this. We have this list called my list, and inside it we have all these elements like 90, 2.5, Joanne, which is string data type, and others like this. So now let's say I run this. Since you know that Python index starts with 0, so to get any element out of this list, we will use its index. So for example, if I want to get this 90, I will use the index 0 with a square bracket to get that. And to get this 2, for example, this is 0, 1, 2. This one will return Joanne. And if I want to get this root, I can start with 0, 1, 2, 3, or I use the reverse index. This will be -1 and root will be -2. Can you still remember all this? I believe you remember, right? Okay, great. So let's see how to do that. So I have this, and when I say this should return value of index 2, remember 0, 1, 2, this is 2. So now it will now return Joanne for me. And let's say I want to return this is 0 to 3. And since these are 3, okay, will not be inclusive. Okay, so this will just be 0, 1, and 2. So it will only return 3 elements for me. So for example, this will be 0, 1, 2, and therefore it will now be 92.5 Joanne, because Python will not include this last value here for me, which is 3. So what Python will return is the index with 0, 1, and 2. So if I run this now, I have Joanne. Here's another example. Remember, this is a nested list. So I have this, and after that, I also have another list. So now, if I run this and I ask Python, what value has index 0? Remember, this will be 1, and that is why you have this. So if I also say, okay, what value has index 3? Remember, this is 0, 1, 2, 3, and therefore it will return all this list for me. And that's exactly what we have here. So now look at this one here. So you can see this one as okay, like you have this result already, which is all this. And in this again, you still want to index the value that has this 0. In this case, remember, if you say 0 here, you say A. And that is why all this altogether returns A. Let's see another example. Here I have a password list. Let's say we have all this as our elements. So as you can see, we have nested list in it. This is 1, 2, 3, 4. This 4 is a string. This is another list. Okay, this is another list, and inside this list we also have another list again. So it's very it's complicated. Okay, so if I run this now, see what I have. And if I say I want to return the value that has index 3 in this time around, see 0, 1, 2, 3, and it will be all this all together. And that is why you see all this being returned. Now let's say you have this, so you still want to get the value that has the index 3 out of all this. So now just count it. This is 0, 1, 2, 3. In that case, it will now return only this list for you, and that is what you have here. Okay, so now let's say you still want to get another index. Remember when we were dealing with string, whenever we have 1, it means that uh, this will start with 1 and take all the elements. Okay, so now uh, this has 0 index and 1 start here, and since after 1 we need every other element, and that is why only this will be returned, and that is what we have here. If you can't really remember this, I will advise you to go to the string indexing and slicing. One thing I want you to understand about a list is that list is mutable. What is mutable? Mutable means that you can change elements in a list to another element. For example, let's say we have this as our list. Okay, so now if you index 0, remember this will give you 1 because this one has index 0. So now let's say that you want to replace this 1 with 3. You want to replace this 1 with 9 rather. Okay, since this index 0 is returning 1. Okay, so when you now say this equal to 9, what Python will do is that it will replace this value 1 with 9. Alright, if I run this now, see, so if I call out my list again, I will have this 9, 2, 3, 4, 5, which means that this 1 has been replaced with 9, and that is the mutability of a list. So let's see another example. So here you have another list in which you have all these elements, and in this list you are looking for a value that has index 2. Here it will be 0, 1, 2. Here it will be adding. Okay, as you see, when I run it, I get adding. So now what you want to do now is that you want to replace the value that has index 2 with Jamal. Okay, so if I run this and I call the name of my variable again, I will see that this adding has been replaced with Jamal, and that is how mutability behaves. One other good thing about a list is that it has its own methods. Remember, when we're dealing with string, we have different methods in string, such as upper, lower, split. Oh, you remember, right? Exactly. So list also has its own methods, and you can get the method of a list by one, you create a list, and to get its method, after you call out the name of the variable, you just type dot on your keyboard and you press tab. So once you press tab, all the methods in that list will appear, and from there you can take any one that you really want to use. So for example, we have a method called append. So what append does is to add more elements to a list. Append add more elements to a list. For example, we have this list called my list, where we have 90, 2.5, adding, true, false, adra, and no. Okay. So if I call out this list again, I have all my values here. Let's say that I want to add 6 to this list. So with the help of append method, I can easily do that. As you can see, when I just say append and I put 6 here, if I run it, nothing will appear until I call out my variable name again. So in this case, I call out my list, and you will see that at the end of this list, another element has been added, which is our 6. Okay, let me do append again. So I have my list. Let me delete this. So once you just call out your list, my list in this case, and I press a period and you press tab on your keyboard, all these are methods. So now I want to use append. Since append is a method, I have to include parentheses to it. So what will now be inside that parenthesis is what I want to add to that list. In this case, let me say I want to add Francisco to it. Francisco. Okay. So if I do this now, it has been added internally. But to get what has been added, I have to call out this my list. And now, as you can see, here is Francisco. So we also have another method called extend. Extend behaves like append, but the difference between append and extend is that append can only add one element at a time, while extend can add more than one element. So let's say that in the append here, we want to force append to add like more than one element and see what will happen. So here I want to say my list, okay, dot append, and here let's say I want to add more elements to it. Let's say I want to add something like this. I want to say Ezekiel, and then I create another element called, let's say I have root, for example. If I run this now, let me call my list. Okay, you will see that you can't even see Ezekiel and root inside this one here, so which means that nothing is happening. Okay, but with the help of append, let's see what with the help of extend, let's see what happens. So I'm still having the same my list. Okay, so in this case I'm adding Adisu, Aklilo, Amandi, and Bakari. So if I run this guy now, see what happens. All these elements, Adisu, Aklilo, Amandi, and Bakari, has been added. As you can see, they are this one here. So which means that append can only add one element at a time, while extend can add more than one element. And you will see that when we are adding more elements in extend, we have to use this square bracket. Reason is that square bracket will allow us to add more elements together in extend. Because if you don't put this square bracket there while you are adding all this, so it's possible Python return an error. Let's see for example. So I still have my own list called my list. So I have my list here. I just say dot extend, for example, and then I just want to add, like, let's say we have another, let's say we want to add Abdul, and let's say Mohammed, for example, Mohammed. Now you see, now if I run this, Python returns an error. Reason is that it's telling me that extend takes only one argument and you gave two. So to add more elements, you need to put square bracket there. Don't forget. So if I run it now, as you can see, it works, and then I can now look for what is inside this list. So I can just say my list, and now I have all these things in it. So as you can see, I have sorry, is it Ile? yeah, my list. Okay, my list dot extend. Yeah, now I now have what I put here, that is Abdul and Mohammed. Okay, and we also have another method called insert. What insert does is to insert an object before a given position. Let's say you want to add another element before or in a given index, in a given position. So with the help of insert, you can easily do that. So let's see another example on how to see that one. So what we do here is that, let me remove this. So I run my list here, and then I create a new cell. I added this. Okay, so now what happens here now is that if you look at this one here, this is the index, and this index, if you count it, this is 0, 1, 2, 3. So it will insert bukafa around this side here. So if I run this, see what happens, and I call my list again, you see that now bukafa is now in index 3. This is 0, 1, 2, 3. Bukafa is now in index 3, and other element now continues, as you can see. So that is how we can use insert. So we can also see another example by creating a new list called country that I want to visit. For example, visited countries, or country that I have visited before. So here I've visited America, Rwanda, Singapore, Italy, Canada, and Mauritius. So let's say that I now want to add another country called South Africa around the index 0. Remember, index 0 is America. So now if I put insert this to it now, so it will now take South Africa to this position and now shift America and others uh, forward like that. So if I run this, now if I run this again, you can now see that this America now has been replaced with South Africa, its position. So then after South Africa, then all this now continues. So that is what you have here. There is another method called dot pop. Pop. So what pop does is to remove an element. Okay, to remove the last element, okay, in your list. For example, let's say I have this list called my list, and inside it I have 90, 2.5, adding 1, 2, 3, 0.75, and so on. So if I just say my list dot pop, okay, you will note that no is returned because no is the last element here. So if I now call out my list again, if I call my list again, I now have all these elements except the last one. So which means that pops remove the last element from your list. Okay. So now another example is here. In this case, I am putting index here. In the previous one, I didn't put any index. I only put dot pop. Okay, but for this case here, I just put dot pop, which is the method, and I now put the index of what I want to remove. So you will note that here in the my list, 90 has the index 0. So if I just put 0 here and I run it, you will see 90 being returned for me. And when I call out my list again, you will note that 90 has been removed in this list. So that is how pop behaves. So there is another method called reverse. So this reverse, what it does is to reverse the order of a list. Let's say I have this list called your list, and I have this element inside this list. So if I run this and I say dot reverse, please always include this parenthesis to it. So if I say dot reverse, you will note that nothing appears. But if I call out my list again, you will see that this reverse has reverses all my elements. Now Sivera was the first element here. As you can see, it has now took several to the last, while the last become the first. As you can see, it reverses it reverses the order. So here is how it is before, but now Python has now reversed it from here downward like this. So this is it now. So I also have another example where I have visited countries, and I put dot reverse method there. And now if I run it now, you will note that all this order now has been reversed. And now I now have it in this way, that is from Mauritius to Canada, from Canada to Italy, from Italy to Singapore, from Singapore to Rwanda, and Rwanda to America. I hope you are enjoying this list. So let's continue and see what sort method can do for us. As the name indicates, sort arrange our list in either ascending or descending order. So it's like reverse, but this sort is more meaningful, it's more useful than reverse. So let's see this one, for example. Here we have egg weight, and in this egg weight we have all this as the egg weight, for example. So if I just put dot sort method here, you will see that this now arrange it from the lowest to the highest. But in the case of reverse, what reverse is doing is that it's changing the direction and not the order. It's changing the direction. While sort method now arrange it in maybe ascending or descending. So in this case here, so sort method arrange it in ascending order from lowest to the highest. So we also have another example where we have a list called marks, and inside this list we have all the marks that are giving students score in this introduction to Python programming quiz. So now I want to arrange this in descending order, which means from the highest value to the lowest value. So now what we do in the sort method is to use another argument called reverse is equal to true. So if you say reverse equal to true here, then you will now see that, oh, I'm having error because I've not run this. And if I run it again now, you can see the result. So now the mark here is now arranged from the highest to the lowest with the help of this argument called reverse is equal to true. So let me show you another example. Let's say here I have ages of students. So it's a list, and I have all these random number. Okay, and let me stop here. Let me stop here. So if I use reverse method, see what happens in reverse. Age dot reverse. Okay, and I include the parentheses there. See what happens. Nothing happened. Then I can now call the variable out, which is ages, and see that. So you can see that it only turns the direction. Okay, from 12, 15, 16, 18, 16, and to 16, 18, 16, 15, and 12. But with sort will now arrange those elements in ascending order. So I have this ages dot sort, then I include the parentheses. As you can see, nothing happened. Then I can call out the variable out, and now I have this. As you can see, this is meaningful. 12, 15, 16, 16, 18. And then if I want to arrange it in descending order, then I have to say sort. Then inside that sort, I can just say reverse is equal to true. And now I can call out the name of my variable, which is ages, and then I have my result. Now this is now arranged in descending order from the highest to the lowest. As you can see, 18, 16, 16, 15, and 12. I hope now you understand what a list is, and you know how to slice it and index any element from it, and you also know how to use different methods that is available in a list. Welcome back. In this section, you will learn how to work with tuple, which is another data structure in Python. So to follow along, you can open a tuple Jupyter notebook on this Python script and codes. So to see it clearly, I can close this guy so that you can see my script clearly. So what is a tuple? A tuple is like a list. It's an order sequence, but it has a little bit different from a list. For example, a tuple is immutable. That is, you can't change the order of a tuple. To create a tuple, you will use this parenthesis sign, and then every element in that tuple will be separated by a comma. Remember, while you were creating your list, you used this bracket, which is a square bracket. But for tuple, you will use this parenthesis kind of bracket. Remember that list is mutable. That is, you can change the element of a list, but you cannot change the element of a tuple, and that is why tuple is immutable. So how do we create a tuple? So to create a tuple, you will use this parenthesis. But in this case, I have an empty tuple. So if I run it now, you can see this is an empty tuple. Okay. Let's say I want to create another tuple. So in this case, I just say t is equal to, so I put this element there, and I can also increase it by saying 1 8. Now if I run this now, as you can see, I have this as my tuple. Okay, tuple 2 can contain different data types. So here we have example of an integer tuple. So when you ask for the type of variable that this one is, Python will return tuple for you, as you can see, tuple. Okay, we can also create a float tuple. So here, as you can see, all the elements here are of float data type. So if I call this type unmarked, so Python return tuple for me. So what about a string data type? So here I have all these as my tuple elements. Dirik, Berlin, Baruch, Jamal, and Jalila. So if I run this now and ask for the type of data type, so Python is saying tuple. And also we can also have mixed tuple data types. For example, here is an integer, a float, a string, and a boolean. So if I run this, I can see that Python is saying is tuple. And to get what element are inside this mixed tuple, I can just say call out the name of the variable that is mixed tuple, and then I run it. As you can see now, I can see all my elements. We can also have a nested tuple. So here is one element inside the tuple, and I also created another tuple inside that, another tuple inside that, and another tuple inside that. So we have so many tuples here, and that is why we call it a nested tuples. So Python will not say it is a nested tuple, but you that are assigning this, you will know that this is a nested tuple, having a tuple on tuple. Since you can count the elements of a list, we can also count the number of elements in a tuple as well. For example, I want to create a tuple by myself, like let's say fruits. Okay, so fruits, Then I have all these as my elements. So I have mango. I like mango, and I also like apple. Then I like carrots, and I also like orange. So I like orange. So if you run this, you will see that we have how many elements there? 1, 2, 3, 4. We have just 4 elements. And to get the number of elements inside this tuple, so I can just say len, then put the variables there, and Python will return 4 for me. So let's see the number of elements we have in this tuple. So with the help of len function, then we can see it is 8. So let's see it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Here is 8 elements. Okay, and what about this? So in this case, you see that this is a nested tuple. So this is 1, 2, 3, and 4. And that is why Python is returning 4 as its elements. So you may not count this one individually, like this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. No. So what Python is doing here is that it's counting individual tuple. Yes, one tuple, yes, another tuple 2, another tuple 3, then another tuple 4. So that is why we have 4 as this. So we can also index elements from a tuple. As you know that index starts with 0. So now let's say I have this tuple called my tuple, and inside it I have all this as elements. So I have 92.5 adding and so on. So let's say that I want to get the value that has index 3. In this case, look at it, 0, 1, 2, 3. In this case is 1, 2, 3, and that is why this 1, 2, 3 is returned. The same thing with slicing. Remember that Python will not include the last number here, which is 3. So which means Python will only start from 0 and end at 2. So I can just put 0, 1, and 2. So if I run this, you see that Python only return elements whose index are 0, 1, 2. In this case, 92.5 and this adding, and that's why we have it here. So another example is this, which is a nested tuple. And from here, as you can see, I want to get the value that has index 0. In this case is 1. And now I can see for the index 3, this is 0, 1, 2, 3. And for the index 3, it will return this tuple out, which is ABC. And that is what we have here. And remember, if you have this, so A we have index 0, B we have index 1. And that is why when we say new tuple square bracket 3 and square bracket 0, so what Python will return is A, because A has the index 0. So this one helps us to break it one by one. And why this do it all together. As you can see, this is it. And you note that A in this one here, okay, we have this, and then this 0 will now take A from that, and that is what you have here. So as you know, a list is mutable. So mutable means that we can change the element of a list, but that is not the case with a tuple. You cannot change the element of a tuple. Let's see it. So I have this as an example. Okay, I have my tuple which has all these elements 1, 2, 3. So you know that I can get the index, right? I can get the value that has index 0, which is 1. But if I want to replace this, okay, let me run it. As you can see, the value of 1 has index 0, and that is it. Okay, but let's say I have this now. Let's say I want to replace that. My tuple, okay, say 0, and I now say it's equal to 90. So let's say it's equal to 9. Immediately I want to replace this one with 9. Python will return an error. As you can see, it throw an error. It throws an error. Reason is that there is no way you can replace any element in a tuple, and that makes tuple to be immutable. That is, you can't change it. As you know, list has different methods such as append, extend. Which one can you remember? Insert, yes. What again? Which one again? Sort, reverse. Oh, great. But tuple has just two methods, which include index and count. So what index does is that it returns the index of value, while count return the number of occurrence of a given value. So let's say, for example, I have this as my tuple, that is ABACA. Okay, and let's say I want to get the index of B. So if I ask you what is the index of B, 1. Oh, great, 1. So if I just say T index, index is method, remember, and I want to put this B inside here. So now Python returns 1 because B has an index 1. So what is the index of A here? What is it? So let's try it. Index of A, I just put let's see, I just say T index, and let's see, T index, and let's put A here. So Python returns 0 because it only see A for the first time. As you can see, this A has index 0. Although we have many A's here, but the first one will be returned. Then, as you know, we have another method for tuple, which is count. So in this case, let's say I want to count the number of A in this tuple. So then I can just say t.count, and I put A there. So in this case, if I run it now, Python is returning 3, which means that we have just 3 A's here. For example, this is the first one, second one, and third one. So let me show you another example. So let's say that we have a tuple of fruits, which we have done before. Let me even copy it and then expand on that. A tuple of fruits. Can I still see that? Okay, yeah, this is it. So let me copy this guy, and then let me go down and then paste it here. Let's say I paste this here to save our time, and let me add more other fruits again, which is the same one with a mango. So I want to count the number of mangoes and count the number of apples. Let's say in this case I have just 3 apples, okay, on my fridge. Okay, now let's say this is as you know, if I say type and I put fruit there, this is a tuple. Okay, so now let's say I want to count the number of mangoes in this tuple. So what I will do is I will just say fruit dot count, and inside that, because it's a method, I have to include the parenthesis there. So I can just say mango. So now you will note that I have 2 mangoes here. Can you see? This is the first one, and here is another one. So if I change this mango to apple, for example, let's say fruits, okay, and then I have dot count, dot count, small letter please, dot count, and then I put apple there. You will see that this one will return 3 for me because I have just 3 apples, which is this, and this. So when can you use tuple? List and tuple are similar, okay, but if you see that, okay, you can't change the element of that data structure, then you can use tuple for that. So for example, let's say the number of months in a year. Okay, let's say you have January, February, March, April, and so on to December. So in that case, you can't change any month, okay? That is, in that case, you can use tuple. But for list, as you know, elements in a list can be changed because list is mutable. Welcome back. In the data structure, we've looked at a list and a tuple. So in this section, we will see another type of data structure, which is a set. So what is a set? A set is an unordered and unindexed collection of unique elements. Two things: unordered, unindexed. So which means that you can't index any element in a set compared to when you were indexing elements in a list and a tuple. And one other thing or a unique thing about a set is that it can't take any repeated element. For example, every element in a set must be unique, must be distinct. So how do we create a set? So you can create a set by using this curly bracket. As you can see, curly brackets. So let's see how to create a set in Python. So to follow along with this script, you can go to this Python script and codes, then look for sets. So in order for you to see clearly, I would like to click on this so that you can see the whole script clearly. Okay, so here I have a set called call received. So this is the number of call I've received maybe for a given day. So in a certain day, no call, another day, just one call, another day, 4 calls, 2 calls, 3 calls, and 5 calls. So this is a set. If you look at this bracket, it's a curly bracket, which is different from what you have in tuple. So now if I run this now, I have this. And if I look at the data type that is on this call received, that is the data structure, so Python will return a set for me. Okay. So one thing about a set is that set will automatically arrange those elements as in an ascending order. For example, look at it. When we create a variable call received, and we put all these elements there, and when the Python is returning the result, as you can see, it's not returning it in an order. That's why we said set is ordered arrangement of elements. So this is another example. So here I have a set. Look at this curly brackets. We have apple, banana, cherry, orange, pineapple, grape, and purple. So if I run this and I look for what is there, as you can see, here is set. When I look at the kind of data type, so Python is returning a set. So if you look at this example, which is the student age, since set can only take unique elements. So now we have 19, 20, 15, 19. As you can see, 19 is being repeated. So if I run this, it works, but when Python is returning the result, you see that it only returns a unique element. So this duplicate element, which is 19, one of them has been removed automatically. So that is one unique thing about a set. So you can use len function to get the number of elements in a set. For example, we have student age, this one that we have here. And when you say len student, so Python will return 6. I have another example called my set. So this is what I have in my set. I run it. Now if I look at the number of elements, Python is saying 9. So for the indexing and slicing, you can't really index any element in a set. That is why this error will return an error, because as you can see, we want to index this 20, which is not possible. As you can see, it's returning type error. Set object is not subscriptable. That is, you cannot subscribe, you cannot index any element in a set. So, but we can also add different sets together. For example, let's say you want to add element in a set. So here we have this set, a student age, okay, and then I want to add 18 to it. So I can just use this method called .add, and then it works now. As you can see, 18 has been added, and this is the 18. And since set always sort our element for us automatically, so let's see another example. So here I have my sets, which are all these Gure, Gulid, Jama, Roth, Abzad, and Aptom. So if I run this, I can see the result. And then to get the number of elements inside this my set, I will use len function and put my variable name there. So now, as you can see, I have 6. If you count it, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This has 6 elements. So let's say I have another friend called Juma, and I want to add her on this place here. So with the help of this method .add, I can put her name there so that she can be added. So when I call this guy again, you will see that this Juma has been added, which is this. And since set is automatically ordering for us, as you can see, G, H, is following alphabetical order. And to get the number of elements inside this set now, I can use len function, which helps me to get the number of elements. Set has different operations such as union, intersection, and complement. So one thing about set, as I said before, is that once there is a duplicate, Python will automatically remove that duplicate. So let's see how we can represent our set with a Venn diagram. Remember this kind of Venn diagram? So here now we have two different fruits. One is a red fruit and another one is orange fruit. So under the red fruit, we have all this. As you can see, look at this circle. This circle represents red fruit, while the second circle, this one here, represent another fruit, orange fruit. But it's possible that red fruit and orange fruit has some elements together. As you can see, pepper and tomato are between this circle. So which means that this red fruit and orange fruit has these fruits all together. Okay, so let's see it one by one. We have an operation called a union of a set or union of two sets. So this union of sets is denoted with this symbol. Okay, so what this one does is that it collects all the elements in both sets together, okay, without any duplicate of elements. So imagine you have, look at the symbol, this is the symbol in mathematics. Look at these two sets. We have set A and we have set B. And to get the union, that is the combination of the two elements, this one and this one, to combine them together, we will use this operator called pipe operator. Okay, you can use this operator or you use this method called dot union. So let's see it one by one. So I have these two sets. Set A has 7, 2, 5 as its element, and set B has 2, 5, 1, 8 as its element. If I run this, so to get the union of A and B, which is the combination of these elements and these elements, while any element that is being that is similar. For example, 5 is here, 5 is here. This 5 will be removed automatically. One of the 5 will be removed, and while the other one is remain. And then Python will now combine all this and this together. Let's see how we can do that. So with the help of this operator, pipe operator, so there is a key on your keyboard that looks like this, so you can locate it. So if you do that, and let's say we want to save the result in this A union B. So if I run this, as you can see, it has stored, the value has been stored in this. So to get the result, I can just say print A union B, which will give us the combination of elements here and elements here. So as you can see, 5 is being repeated. It will take 1 and remove the other. That is why we have this. Also, another way I think we can combine two sets together is to use this method called dot union. So in this case, I will just do like this. The first set is A. The first set is A. Then I just put dot and then write union. So union, and then I put a bracket there because this union is a method. Then what this one is accepting is the other set, which is B. So if I run this, as you can see, it has saved the result here. So to get what is saved here, I can just say print A union B, or just write normal A union B. As you can see, both of them will work. So I can just say, let me redo it again. I can just say print A union B, or just write A union B. So that gives you the same result. So what union is to combine all the elements in both A and B together and remove any duplicate that is ever present in the two sets. There's another operation. Okay, let's see another example. Here we have this example where we have odd number and even number sets. Okay, so here you want to get the union of the two sets, odd number and even number. So remember, we can use this format like the first set, odd number, then this key, pipe operator on your keyboard, and then you write it. So this one will now combine all these elements and this together. Okay, let me run it. Then I run it again. So I get the result. It's stored here and I can print it. So here it is now. This is the combination of elements here and here. Okay, great. So I will give you this one to run on your own. There's another operation in set called intersection. So what intersection does is to look at the two sets and returns their where they intersected or where they have common elements. So for example, look at this set A. If you look at this circle, you see that the elements in this A are 1, 3, 2, 5, and 4. And the elements in B are all these 1, 3, 9, and 12. Since intersection is denoted as this, okay, and intersection is where they have common element, and that is what we circle here in yellow color, which is 1 and 3. So therefore, the intersection of the two sets A and B here is just this. So let's see how we can use Python to do that. So to compute intersection in Python for two sets, you use this sign here, the ampersand sign or the and sign, or you use dot intersection to get that. So let's see it. So we have this as an example, two sets A and B. As you can see, we have represented all the elements here in this, and all the elements for B are represented here. So if I run this, I got that. Okay, good. So now to get the intersection, I will use this and symbol. So you can, if you are using Windows system, you can press Shift and 7. Shift and 7 to get this. For example, Shift and 7 gives you this sign. So if you run it now, the answer has been saved into this variable. So to get what is stored here, you can now print it out. As you can see, it is 1 and 3. And if you look at the Venn diagram here, you can see that A and B has two common elements, which are 1 and 3. So let's see another example. In this example, we have a set called my fruits, which has all these apple, banana, cherry, orange, and watermelon. And we also have another set called French fruits, which has this pineapple, grape, pawpaw, banana, and mango. So to get the elements or the kind of fruits that we both have together, then we can use this AND operator to do that. So let's see, I run this. Okay, first of all, I need to run this. Then I run this. Okay, friend fruits. Okay, remember, look at fruits, but I put fruits here, so I can just change that to S. Okay, now let's run it again. I run this, I run this. Now I have my answer. So you will note that both of us has a banana together. Look at it, banana is here and banana is here in its own fruits. So that is why this return banana. Okay, this only we only have banana in common. There is another set operation which is called complement of a set. Sometimes they call it set difference. So the complement of a set A and B, which is denoted as this A minus B, is the element that A has that are not in B. So which means that complement of A and B, okay, is the element that A has which are not in B. For example, you can look at the Venn diagram here. You will note that here is the set A and here is the set B. So now if you look at the complement of A and B, the result will be what A has that are not in B. So let's see it in example. Let's see it in example. Okay, you see that here, let me run it again. Here, A has 2, 4, 6, 3, 5, and 7, and B has all these. So the elements that B did not have are what is inside here, 2, 4, 6, and that is why we color it as yellow. So let's see how we can do it in example. So I have these two sets, set A and set B, which are all in this place here. And then to get their difference, I will just say A minus B. And to see what is in this variable difference, I just run it. And I have 2, 4, 6. And then we can also do it in this way by using the method function. For example, we have A dot difference. As you know, when we are doing union, we say A dot union. For intersection, we say A dot intersection. This time around, we just say A dot difference. And when we put a B there, Python will give us element that is in A but not in B, which is 2, 4, 6. Let's see another example, which will be our final example. So here I have my own fruits and my friend has his own fruits. So my own fruit has all this, my friend has this. So let's run it. So now if I want to get the fruit that I have, but my friend did not have, I will just do like this. My fruit minus his own fruit. Because this minus or negative is used for difference. And when I run it now, okay, let me run this and run this. Remember, it's friend fruit. So let me put S here. Now I can see that I have apple, cherry, orange, watermelon, and my friend did not have this. So that is the meaning of that. So which means that the fruits that I have that my friend did not have are all these: apple, cherry, orange, and watermelon. And remember, you can also do this by using a dot difference and then put the set, let's say not set A, this time around will be my fruits, and here will be my friend fruit or friend's fruit, and you run it. So you now get the same answer. This is apple, cherry, and orange. Uh, what happened here? Let's run it again, please. See this, and run this. Is apple, cherry, orange, and watermelon. Okay. So if I use this one again, remember this one is my fruit. So I think R is taking another variable that we have used before. So let me just put S here and then run it. As you can now see, so we have apple, cherry, orange, and watermelon, which is the same thing as this. Welcome back. Since last section, we'll be talking about various data structure in Python, such as a list, a tuple, a set. In this section, you will learn another type of data structure, which is known as data dictionary. What is a dictionary? A dictionary is an ordered collection of key and value pairs. That is, we make use of two elements, which is a key and a value. Dictionary helps us to get huge amount of data, and to be able to get the value, we must know our key. So let's see how we can create a dictionary in Python. To create a dictionary in Python, we have to use a curly bracket. A curly bracket in which we are going to assign our key followed by a value with the help of this colon. As you can see, we have a key, which is key 1, then a colon and a value. And also, we can also create another key. In this case, we say key 2, a colon, and its value. If we want to create another key, for example, we can say key 3, colon, and its value. So this colon separate a key from a value. Let's say I want to create another key. In this case, let me say key 4. Key 4, then I have to separate this with a colon and then assign its value there. Let me call it value 4. You will notice that our key is always a string data type. That is, you must quote it. While value can be any data type. It may be a string, it may be a float, it may be an integer, or a boolean. So if I run this now, to see what is stored in this my dictionary, I can just call the name of this dictionary, which is my dictionary. So if I run it now, as you can see, you see the key and you see the value. So which means that every key in the dictionary must have its own value. In the case of key 1, you can see its value, which is value 1. And in the case of key 2, you can also see its value as value 2. Alright, to get the type of data that is stored in this my dictionary, I will use this function called type. As you know, type is used to get or to determine the kind of data type that a variable is. So in this case, I will use type. And when I run it, as you can see, Python is telling me that this my dictionary variable is of data type dictionary. So let's see another example. In this example, I have various life expectancy for a few countries in Africa. Let's see another example. In example 2, we have various life expectancy for a few countries in Africa. You may be asking, what is life expectancy? Life expectancy is the average number of years that a particular person is expected to live based on the year of his birth. That is an average lifespan that a particular person is expected to live. For example, in Nigeria, a person is expected to live for just 60 years, which means that the life expectancy of average person in Nigeria is 60 years. If you look at Kenya, you will see that the life expectancy of average person in Kenya is 69. Uganda too, their life expectancy is 68 and so on. So let's see how we can use dictionary to store this kind of values. Number one is that you create a dictionary with the help of this curly brackets, and then every value must have its own key. For example, Nigeria, this is a key, Nigeria, and then you separate this key and this value by colon. So which means that key colon value, key colon value. So first of all, I create the key and then put its value there, which is 60. Then when I'm done with that, I separate that one with a comma and then create another key. So in this case, I want to store country. For example, Kenya. So I just say Kenya colon 69. So this means that this is the country Kenya, which is a key, and its value is 69. That is the life expectancy of people in Kenya. So to create another key, after you have done that of Kenya, then you use comma and then create a new key. So in this case, I have Uganda, and their life expectancy is 68. You will note that all these countries, okay, we use key to store them, and then their value is also stored in value. As you can see, for key Nigeria, we have its value as 60. For key Kenya, we have its value as 69. As I said before, key must be put in quotation because it's a string, while value can be of any data type. And in this case, as you can see, 60 here is an integer, 69 here is an integer, and for Uganda, the 68 life expectancy for Uganda is 68, or the life expectancy of Uganda is 68. So after we have created this key and value and we have stored it in life expectancy, then we can run it. Let's run it. Then to see what is stored in this variable life expectancy, we have to call the name, which is life expectancy. And when I run this now, as you can see, Nigeria has life expectancy of 60, while Kenya has life expectancy of 69, and so on. And if you look at Somalia, their life expectancy is 54. So if I ask you, what is your own life expectancy in your country? As you can see, you just go to this place here, the key, and from there you can choose your own country. So for example, Jamal is from Sudan. Their life expectancy over there is just 67. While Francisca is from Kenya and their life expectancy over there is 69, as you can see. And to get the kind of data type that is stored in this life expectancy, we are going to use this type function. Then when I run this, I get a dictionary. So it's not written in full. As you can see, we only have DICT. That is the short or abbreviation for dictionary. Let's see another example where we can use a dictionary. So in this case, I have many countries, you know, from East Africa, from North Africa, West Africa, Central Africa, and Southern Africa. You will note that all these one here, which are the regions in Africa, I put them as a key. For example, this East Africa is a key, North Africa is a key, West Africa is a key, Central Africa is a key, and Southern Africa is also another key. And each of these key has their own values. If you look at the East Africa, I use a list to store every country in East Africa. For example, as you know, most of you are in East Africa countries. So if you look at this one now, Ethiopia is in East Africa, as well as Kenya, Rwanda, Somalia, South Sudan, Uganda, and Burundi. And that is why we have to use a list, okay, to store all the countries in East Africa. So this means that here is the key, and all these are the values. So in this case, we have just one value, and inside the value, we have so many countries. Another key is this one, which is North Africa. And all the countries in North Africa, we put them as a list, and that becomes a value for a key North Africa. Remember, I said before that a value can be any data type. It can be a float, can be an integer, it can be a string, it can be a boolean, and in fact, a value can be a tuple or a set, and it can also be a list, and that is what you see here. This is a list, okay, and it becomes a value for the key East Africa. Let's see another key, which is Central Africa, and its value is this, which is stored as a list. And as you know, countries in Central Africa are Angola, Cameroon, Chad, Congo, DRC, and Gabon. So we also have another key, which is Southern Africa. And you can see all the countries in Southern Africa, which is the value of this Southern Africa, we put it as a list here. And all those countries are Botswana, Eswatini, Lesotho, Namibia, Reunion, and South Africa. So let's see what we have here. When I run this, okay, and I have it now as Africa regions. So if I print what is there now, I can also use print. Remember, to print an object, you can use print, and if you like, you may not even include print there. But to see it clearly in a printable version, that is why I use this function called print. And if I run it now, see what happens. You see everything clearly. As you can see, here is the key, and this is its value. Okay, here is another key, and this is its value. Okay, so to see what is stored in this African region, I can use type function, which is type Africa. Type and put the variable African region there, and this returns a dictionary for me. Let me create a new cell. Let's say this time around I don't want to put print, but I want to put Africa region, and see what will happen, because in the other examples I did not use print. So there is nothing different, only that we have it in this way. As you can see, this is the key, and here is its value. And for you to see it clearly, that's why I use print, so that it is well printed and you can see it clearly. To count the number of keys, or the number of elements in a dictionary, we can use the function len. Remember when we were talking about a list, and we want to count the number of elements in a list, we have to use the function len to count the number of elements for us. The same thing with a set and also a tuple. Also, we can also get the number of items in a dictionary. So let's see how to use this len function. So I'm also using the life expectancy again, where we have various keys and values, and every key must have its own value. For example, Nigeria, the life expectancy is 60, and so on and so forth. So if I run this, now with the help of len, I can see the number of items in this life expectancy dictionary. So which means that I have 8 items. So let's see those items. So when I say item means key and value. So which means key and value will be 1, and then you continue counting each and every one of them. So for example, here is 1 item, here is another item, here is another item which is Uganda and its value. Here is another item, another item, another item, and here is the final item. So if you count them one by one, Nigeria 1, Kenya 2, Uganda 3, Ethiopia 4, Sudan 5, Rwanda 6, Tanzania 7, and Somalia 8. You will note that we have just 8 items, and that is what this learn function returns for us. So let's see another example. So this is where we have African region, and each region has its own countries, which is a value. East Africa is a key, and here is its value. So now to use learn to count the number of items that we have in this dictionary, we just use learn and we put the variable there. So when I run it now, I have just 5 items. So you may be wondering why we have 5 here. Remember that the key and its value is the item of that dictionary. So which means if I want to count the number of items in this dictionary, I will just count it as this. East Africa and its value 1, North Africa and its value 2, West Africa key and its value 3, Central Africa and its value 4, and Southern Africa and its value 5. So now we now have 5 items in this dictionary. You may also be asking yourself this question, that how can we now access all these items, be it a key or a value? Since you know that every dictionary is presented in a key to value relationship. So if you know the key for a dictionary, we can easily get its value. Consider this dictionary where we have life expectancy. You know that this is a key, and here its value. This is another key, here is its value. So let's say that I know the key, which is Nigeria. I can easily get its value, which is 60, with the help of this square bracket. What I will do is that first of all, I will call the name of the dictionary, which is life expectancy. If you remember when we were talking about list, you know that you can get the element of a list by using index, right? So this is not possible in a dictionary. So to get the value for a key in a dictionary, what you will do is that you will put the key name inside the square bracket. So for example, I have this. Here is my variable, which is a dictionary, life expectancy, and I create a square bracket. Let me delete this and do it again for you so that you can see it clearly. I have this square bracket and I just put my key there. So in this case, I want to get the the key whose value is 60. So in this case, I want to get the value 60 whose key is Nigeria. So what I will do is to put Nigeria here. And remember, Nigeria is a string data type. So I have to put quotation and then type Nigeria. So if I just do like this and I run it, wow, I see 60. So which means that to get the value from a dictionary, what you need to do is to use its key or its key name. Let's see another example. This time around, I want to see the life expectancy value for Ethiopia. So how do I do that? Remember, for Nigeria, to get its value, you have to use its key name. So for Ethiopia, you also need to use its key name, which is Ethiopia. And now this is it now. As you can see, first of all, you have to call the variable, which is our dictionary, and then under the square bracket, you have to put the key whose value you are looking for. So in this case, I'm looking for Ethiopia. And now, when I run it now, it will return the value of life expectancy for Ethiopia for me. So let's see another example. So I want to create a new cell. So let me say I want to get the life expectancy for Rwanda. So how do I do that? Remember, what I will do is to call out my dictionary name followed by a square bracket and then the key whose value I'm looking for. So this time around, I'm looking for the value, okay, whose key is Rwanda. So in this case, I just put Rwanda here. So when I do that, Rwanda, make sure that you don't have you don't misspell it. If you misspell it, then Python will throw an error. So if I run this now, as you can see, the life expectancy for key Rwanda is 65, and you can easily see it in this place here, which is 65. Okay, great. So one thing about a dictionary is that you cannot access any item by its index. Remember, the index of Python starts with 0. So let's say that you just want to, put an index there. Let's say I want to put an index 0 there. So what Python will throw is that there is no, it's returning a key error, which means that what you are looking for is not available here. Okay, so this means that you can access any dictionary item just by putting an index there. So instead, what we do is just to put a key name. The name of the key is what we put inside this square bracket. Like we have so many methods for list, for tuple, for set. We also have dictionary methods, and they include keys, values, items, and updates. So let me explain it one by one. So the method key, what it helps us to do is that it will return a list of all the keys in the dictionary. As you know that a dictionary can contain many keys. So let's say you now want to get all the keys in your dictionary. So what you will do is to use the method dot keys. Let's see how to do that. So I will be using this life expectancy dictionary. You know how to create it, right? So I just run it. Okay, now I've done that. So to get all the keys, and if I can ask you, what are the keys in this dictionary? Remember, the keys are Nigeria, Kenya, Uganda, Ethiopia, Sudan, Rwanda, Tanzania, and Somalia. So now, if I just say life expectancy, which is the variable name that I have here, that helps me to store this dictionary. So if I just include the keys method there, remember when you want to get any methods for an object in Python, you will have to, first of all, put its variable there, which is this one, followed by a dot, and then you press tab on your keyboard. So what I'm looking for is these keys, as you can see, keys. So once I click here, something like this will happen, and then you have to include parentheses there. So now if I run this now, this returns all the keys in this dictionary. As you can see, we have Nigeria, we have Kenya, Uganda, Ethiopia, Sudan, Rwanda, Tanzania, and Somalia. Let's see another example. So in this case, I have African regions dictionary, where we have East Africa, North Africa, West Africa, Central Africa, and Southern Africa. So now, if I just say dot keys, let me run it first. I run this dictionary, and then I just say African region, then period, then put is key here. So if you run this now, as you can see, it gives you all the keys in this dictionary. So that is all about how to get keys in your dictionary. Other thing that you can also get from dictionary, as you know, is its value. And with the help of dot values method, you can easily do that. So let's see how to do that. So the dot value methods will return a list of all the values in your dictionary. In this case, I'm using this life expectancy. Remember how to create it. First of all, you start with a curly bracket, and then you include the key and its value, another key and its value, key and its value, and so on and so forth until you finish that dictionary. Okay, and that is how to create a dictionary. So if I run this now, it runs for me, and to see all the values, so remember what are the values in this dictionary. You will note that here is a value 60, here's another value 69, 68, 68, 67, 65, 64, and 54. So those are the values in this dictionary. So if I run this now, so the dictionary works, and let me see all its value. So remember, you have to use the value method. So if I run it now, as you can see, Python returns all the values in this dictionary for me. As you can see, 60, 69, 68, 68, 67, 65, 64, and 54. Let's see another example. In this case, I will be using my Africa region dictionary, where I have various regions in Africa and countries in those regions. So let me run this. And to see all the values in this dictionary, you will note that here is one value for this East Africa region. Here is another value for the North Africa region. Here is another value for West Africa region. Here is another value for Central Africa region. And here is another value for Southern Africa region. So let me run this and then use the dot value method to get all those values. Remember, I have to put dot after my variable, then press tab key on my keyboard, and then look for the values. So remember, every method must end with a parenthesis. So therefore, I have to include this guy with a parenthesis. So if I run this now, as you can see now, I have all this as the value for my dictionary. So this is the first value. Okay, yes, another one. Okay, yes, another one for the Western African region. Yes, another one for the Central Africa region. And yes, another one for the Southern Africa region. And that is how to get values in your dictionary. I hope you are enjoying this class. Okay. Another method for a dictionary is what is called items. What items does is to return each item in a dictionary. Okay? Remember, items in a dictionary will be the key and value. Okay, so let's see an example. So I will be using Life Expectancy Dictionary. So I run this since you are familiar with it already, and then let us see all these items in this dictionary. So when I run this, I can just say period, then press the tab and type items and run it. Now you can see all the items in this dictionary. You will note that Python return a tuple in a list. For example, here is a tuple. Okay, here's another tuple. Here's another tuple, and here is another tuple, and so on till these are Somalia. So inside the tuple, we now have our key and its value. For example, here is a key, Nigeria, and here is its value. So which means that the items method will return a tuple for us, and in that tuple, we now have a key and then its value individually. So every key and value will be within their own tuple. So here is another tuple, here's another tuple, and as you can see in those tuples, they have their own key followed by its value. So here's another example. So here I will be using the same Africa regions dictionary. So if I run this now and then I look for the item in this dictionary. If I run this now, see what happens. Python returns a tuple for me. As you can see, here is a tuple and here is the key and followed by its dictionary. And after that tuple finishes, another tuple will begin again, which will contain a key and its value. And that is all about item method. Another method for dictionary is update. So what update does is to update the dictionary with its item given by argument. For example, in the update method, you have to include a key and its value there. Let's see an example. Remember when we are saying update, what update means is that we want to update our dictionary. Maybe we want to add more keys and values to it. So with the help of update, we can easily achieve that. Let's see another example to see that. So here I will be using my life expectancy dictionary, and then let's say that as you can see here, we don't have Burundi in this dictionary. So therefore, to add Burundi to this dictionary, I have to use update method. And in that update, I will have a key which will be my Burundi and the value which will be the life expectancy in Burundi. So let's see how to do that. So what I will do is this. So let me do like this. I delete all this so that I can start from the beginning, and then I just type dot a tab on your keyboard and then type update. And inside that update, so as you know, every update, every method must have parentheses. And inside that parentheses, you have to use a curly bracket. Remember, key and value, and that is a dictionary. Since we want to add another element, which is Burundi and its value to this dictionary, we have to use this curly bracket. And in that case, I'm going to include a key. So this time around, it will be Burundi. So let's do like this. Burundi, Burundi, and then remember, we have to, after the key, then we must have a colon followed by its value. So this time around, the value of Burundi or the life expectancy for Burundi is 70. So now I can just say 70. Then I run that. As you can see, there is no error. It means that it works. But you don't see all those keys and values. So what I will do is to call out my variable name again, which is life expectancy. So if I run it now, you will note that Burundi has been added. As you can see, here is Burundi, and here is its value, which is 70. Okay. Another way to add uh, an item to a dictionary is to use something like this, where we have a square bracket which will contain or which will hold the key, and then we now equate it with its value. Okay, let me show you how to do that. Let's say I want to add Eritrea to it. So let me copy this so that I will not make any mistake in spelling Eritrea. Okay, let me delete all this. So let's say that I want to add Eritrea country to this dictionary. So what I will do is to have a square bracket, okay, where I will have the country Eritrea. Remember, here will be the key, and then since key must be in quotation, I have to do that, and then I have to equate it with its value. So it is known that Eritrea average life is 66. So therefore I add 66 to that. So if I run that now, you will note that Eritrea has been added to this dictionary. Okay, so if I run it now, as you can see, here is Eritrea. Okay, and here is its value. So that's how to update a dictionary. So to summarize method update is used to add more keys and values to our dictionary. And as we saw before, there are two ways to do that. Either to use update method or to use this square bracket method, where we will put the key and its value. Since we know how to update a dictionary, sometimes we may want to remove a particular key and value from a dictionary. So let's see how to do that. So to do that, we are going to use a keyword called del, which means to delete. Okay, and this is how it works. So what you will do is that you will use this function, this keyword called del, followed by the variable that store your dictionary, and then inside the square bracket you will include the key that you want to delete its value. So if I do something like this now, okay, so this one will delete the key and the value for Eritrea. And if you call out the variable again, you will know that there is no longer Eritrea in this dictionary, meaning that Eritrea has been deleted from this dictionary. Let's see another example. Let's say that I want to delete Nigeria from this list. Okay, I'm going to use the keyword called del, that is delete, followed by my variable name for this dictionary, that is life expectancy, followed by a square bracket, and then inside it the item that you want to delete, which is Nigeria and its value. Then you can include it in this quotation. I just put Nigeria there. So if I run it now, so to see if Nigeria has been deleted from this list, I can just create a new cell, okay, and then call out my dictionary name, which is life expectancy. So immediately I run this, you will note that Nigeria has been removed or deleted from this dictionary. Okay, so it's interesting, right? Let's see another example. So let's say I want to delete Burundi. So remember, I will use this keyword called del, that is to delete, followed by the variable name that store our dictionary, then a square bracket, and inside it you put that key that you want to delete its item. In this case, I want to delete Burundi. Okay. To see what I have deleted, I just run it. As you can see, there is no longer Burundi in this dictionary again. And that is all about our dictionary. So if you want to follow along, remember you have to open the script, and here it is, dictionary, or you create your own Jupyter Lab notebook. So thank you so much, and see you in the next section. Bye.